Welcome back to Rudy's 1/6 World for a review to start off the new year. And today's pickup is Vera, the 6 of Diamonds from the Damtoys original Gangsters Kingdom line. And I will say, as opposed to opening this in release order, I just had to open this figure since it's the newest release in the line, and it's only the third female character they've released after Ava and Officer Lewis. And I will say, as is always the case with these figures, they are based on celebrities and made in a caricature format and introduced into this Gangsters Kingdom world. As far as the story with Vera, she is in a relationship with the Ace of Diamonds, Angelo, which was the figure based on Michael Corleone and the Scarface character, which we'll hopefully review later on this year. And the story here doesn't really make any reference to Ogier, but it does go back to Saxon's treasure, with Vera being dispatched to interrogate a woman that may hold some key to the treasure's location. So it's interesting to see how the story fragments from other figures start to coalesce into a bigger narrative. So it's nice to see everything really gelling and coming together. Now, normally we would jump right into the overall package as well, but we do things a little differently with Gangsters Kingdom, and we're going to start by looking at the playing card here, which is included with every main gang member. So here we got a 6 of Diamonds, including the images of Vera in her suit. And just like with the other cards, it looks great and it's a nice added feature. So now, let's jump into the figure and look at the overall package. And I will say, this figure does come with a lot. And the big reason for that is that it includes a second complete clothing set, as well as accessories for that specific set. So you have the base figure, which comes with a suit, and the second option is a biker look, inclusive of knee pads and elbow pads as well as a helmet. Besides that, she comes with an assortment of weapons, some accessories for the figure itself, and most uniquely, she comes with a 6-scale coiled green Viper. And we'll take a closer look at the accessories in a bit, but I will note I won't take too close of a look at the second clothing set, as I think it's best to look at that on the figure herself. So let's start with the dual guns, and these are interesting. I think they're smaller model Glocks, given how they fit in her hand. And I will say, unlike the previous releases, these do lack some of that detail work we've seen with other Gangsters Kingdom figures. There's a nice metallic purple color on the slide, with the internals nicely painted in silver, so there's definitely a nice color variance, all sitting on a matte black frame. So the two look good, but it does feel like it's missing some of the detail elements here. Also comes with some clips, but I will say these don't stay in the gun and tend to fall out, so that's definitely a negative. Next up, she has a set of dual swords that look pretty nice, but they're all plastic, and it would have been nice to have the blades be metal, which they've done in the past. Although I think they're supposed to be more carbon fiber based, so maybe metal wasn't a possibility here. Also, the handles do have nice detail work, and there is a slight purple hue within the braided sculpt that matches her guns nicely. The other interesting thing is that the two swords can join together to create a double-bladed weapon, so nice from a display option. As far as accessories, she comes with a watch, sunglasses, and a cigarette on a long filter with a nice smoke effect. So let's talk the watch first, which looks amazing because it's actually including some nice detail elements, like the piece of the wrist strap that's hanging loose. And it's a really nice, unique design, even including the lighter leather color on the interior of the band. Next, you have the sunglasses, which again are really nicely done with that nice amber lens that will still let you see Vera's eyes. And finally, the cigarette on the filter. Definitely a nice, unique piece with the smoke effect. What I will say is mine came a little bent in the box, so that's just unfortunate. And I'll have to try and warm up the piece a little bit to get it back to position. But again, a nice set of accessories throughout. Next, you have a set of interchangeable hands, and the first set are bare hands that go along with the suited clothing set, and they look great, including the ring on one of her fingers, which is nicely added as an actual separate piece as opposed to a molded one. And also, as far as detail work, the paint apps are amazing, with the nails having some nice simulated nail polish, which looks almost glittery under the light. So another great set of details. Next set of interchangeable hands are gloved gun holding and sword holding ones that match the alternate motorcycle clothing set. And there's a lot of detail on the gloves as well, with some great texture and detailing work with the glossy finish over the hard points on the fingers and the top of the hand. Now, the other accessory goes more for the motorcycle clothing set, and it's a nicely detailed backpack with working zippers, and it does hold her swords as well as the ammo packs, which are fixed to the front of the pack with a more military style threaded element. And as far as final accessory, we have to talk about the motorcycle helmet, and it looks incredible. It has an amber colored visor that has some opacity to it, so you can definitely see Vera's face underneath, as well as a nice metallic paint dab throughout with some nice decals. as well. On the side, she also has some printed elements that, appropriately enough for her character, show a viper's head print that looks intense. So there's a lot of amazing work here. And the final piece before we get into the figure itself is the snake. Now, it's coiled as it's meant to wrap around the figure's forearm or even around the double-bladed combined sword. And it's another amazing piece with the fully sculpted detailing, including the scales as well as different texture at the snake's underbelly. The other big thing I think they absolutely nailed here is the head, which they sculpted in a very dramatic way with the mouth agape, ready to strike. And while it's a really small piece, if you look inside the mouth, they've captured the fangs remarkably well, and also the lower jaw with the forked tongue visible. So really fine detail work here. Now, let's move on to the sculpt, and this one looks incredible again. So before jumping into the details, I think this is based on actress Mila Jovovich, who's famous for playing the role of Alice in the Resident Evil movies, as well as a bunch of other releases. Here, I think they're basing the sculpt on her appearance in a more recent movie called The Rookies. Now, I haven't watched the movie itself, but her suit and her hairstyle definitely seem to be pulled straight from some of the shots that I've seen from the trailers. So now, looking at the sculpt itself, overall it's amazing, but there is one thing, and it's the eyes. I don't know if it's because of the direct light, but it does look like she does have a slightly cross-eye appearance. I will say when you're looking at her from a distance, I don't think it's really noticeable, but when you're really staring at her sculpt close up, the alignment is really slightly off. Not sure if they did that on purpose or not, and the reason I question that is because the paint and detail work around the eyes continues to be top-notch from Damtoys. So it's just hard to think that they got the alignment wrong. And it could also be a trick of the light, because I did notice that depending on the lighting, it could look a little more severe. Now, the eyes themselves have a high gloss paint, and the pupils are so well done, it really is striking. And there's even some nice detail work around the eyes with the eyelashes that just make the sculpt stand out. And the great paint work even extends to her eyebrows, which are actually painted on so they have an appearance of being individual hair strands, which is amazing. On top of that, you have some great sculpt and detailing work around her nose and lips, and look, this is a softer sculpt, so not as caricaturish or stylized as some of the other releases. And as for the hairstyle, it's nicely sculpted and detailed with some good color variations leading to the tight bun in the back of her head. So overall, I love the sculpt, and like most Gangsters Kingdom figures, she shows some personality. Her lips are actually sculpted with almost a slight smile, so it's not this stoic look, and I always think that adds a little personality to the figure. The other thing I will say is that the sculpt almost feels a little too realistic. Compared to the shots of, say, Ava and Officer Lewis, the eyes are a little less caricaturish, and I'm not sure if that's an overall direction change from Damtoys, but it does set the figure apart a little bit. Now, looking at the clothing set, and we'll start with the suit, and it's again really impressive. Tailoring is great as always, and even the velcro holding the blouse and the pants up are really well hidden, so it doesn't impact the suit's overall visual appearance. In addition, the material choice, which is almost a very satin finish, looks incredible. And I like the cut of the suit jacket and the pinstripes, since I think it goes well with her, and since she will pair nicely with Angelo, the Ace of Diamonds, I think this will look great beside him. And even the blouse is a nice satin material. I just think the suit really does look great, and they did a solid job having it fit nicely on the figure. And looking at the boots too, that's another highlight. There's a slight pattern to them, almost like an alligator or snakeskin, and they do have the red soles. I have to imagine the design team on these also must really like fashion, because on some of the figures they do add some fashionable elements. I think the red soles here are meant to replicate that expensive brand of designer shoes. So credit to Damtoys for their research and efforts here, because I think for some of the gang members it does differentiate a little bit between, say, the enforcers and the more higher ranked leaders who maybe do have a little bit more money to spend. The other big positive here is her ability to stand. Now, her shoes do have heels, so that can often be a huge issue in trying to get figures to stand on their own. Case in point for me, the Hot Toys Pepper Potts or Catwoman. Can they stand on their own? Yeah, but it's frustrating to get them in a position where they can do that. And more often than not, they end up taking dives. Here, even with the heeled shoes, she does stand really well, and I haven't had one fall. So overall, base clothing set I think looks incredible. Now, the alternate is the motorcycle getup, and we'll look at it in two versions, with the first being just with her undershirt, the open leather jacket, her leather pants, and the motorcycle boots, although I did also put the gun holsters on the pleather belt. And I will say this looks incredible too. Getting the clothing on was a bit challenging and frustrating, as I was trying to be as careful as possible to not damage anything. But once the clothes are on, she just looks great. I also do really like the material choice on the jacket and pants, because it's not just a black leather. Under light, there's almost an iridescence to it where it almost takes on some colorful hues. So it looks great, and it sits great on the figure. And I do like being able to see the snake tattoo on her abdomen, because again, it gives her a little bit more personality as well, and it's very much in character. And also the belt buckle is a nice added detail. There were some major gripes I had, but I'll get into those at the end of the video. But suffice to say, I really do like the look here. Now, this is only partial, because the full look does have you zip up the jacket, and you can add the knee pads and the elbow pads, as well as the backpack, and she looks like she's ready to ride a motorcycle and kick some serious ass. I like the look here too, but I almost think she looks a little too busy. There's just a lot going on. If I had a 6-scale motorcycle, I think she would look great posed on that, but just standing, I don't know. All the pieces look great, so don't think I'm complaining about the accessory, because I'm not. But I just think it's a lot, and almost detracts from the figure a little bit. Although with the helmet on, she really does look incredible. But I do feel that I like the look without the pads on or the backpack. So overall thoughts on this one, I think she's a great addition to the line, and I'm happy to kick off 2023 with this pickup, because once you have her set up, she looks incredible. Having said that, this was one of the most frustrating Gangsters Kingdom figures I've had to deal with, and I'll start with my biggest issue, which are the pegs. Now, if you've seen my other videos for the figures from the line, one of the things I loved about the original releases was that all the hands they provided included pegs, so you didn't even have to worry too much about swapping the hands. It looks like Damtoys moved away from that and went more in line with other companies and expect you to remove the peg from the hand and the wrist socket. The problem here with all the hands are that it's remarkably difficult to remove the peg once it's in the hand, and I had to resort to my trusty needle nose tweezers to be able to get the peg out, and then inserting the peg back into the hand is a huge hassle. So that alone took a ton of time. And the other complaint, that peg issue also 100% extends to the boots. So when trying to swap out the peg so that you could change her boots, the foot peg just wouldn't release from the boots. So it also takes a ton of work, and I'm just going to ding Damtoys on that, because I think had they done it the way they've been doing it originally, with all the hands including wrist pegs, it would make everything much easier to deal with and make the figure a little bit better. And I do feel like some of the accessories, particularly the guns, were a little cheaper than what I'm used to seeing with the line. They still look great, but when you set such a high bar early on, I think some of those imperfections become much more noticeable. So I think my issues with this figure were more frustrations from having to set her up or to deal with some of the peg issues than anything else. But like I said, once the figure is set up, she looks incredible, and even with the issues I had, I still rank her pretty damn high considering all the accessories she comes with, and what really are two completely different but equally impressive clothing sets and appearances. I think this is the first time that I'm actually considering picking up a second body and head sculpt, because I think I'm going to want to display her in that suit along with Angelo. But the motorcycle clothing set is too good to pass up and leave in a box, and I'm going to want to display that as well, although I think I am going to opt away from having her wearing the protective equipment, just because I think she looks better without those items on her person. But again, Damtoys still keeps on impressing me with the line. So that was the kickoff video to our 2023 review season, and it's really a solid figure to start the year off with. Now let me know your thoughts, and if you have any questions about the figure, I'm more than happy to try and answer you and give you some insight. And as always, thank you for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll touch base on the next video.